I'm going to introduce someone that's really important to all of us. She is the director of the Center for Canadians, what do we call it? Canadian Studies Center at MSU. I happen to be the honorary chair of it. I don't do any work. I get up to perform here, but I don't have to do anything other than show up. Janet Blanchard is with me, by the way, former First Lady of Michigan. Thank you for being here. Janet is on the board of the Canadian Studies Center, and we have a director who's worked tirelessly to involve people all over the U.S.-Canada relationship, business, labor, NGOs, environmentalists, scholars, worked very hard to make our center at MSU a leading center. It is the oldest center, Canadian Studies program in the United States, so we're really proud of that. And so without any further ado, I'm going to introduce Anne-Marie Schneider, who will talk a little bit about the center, and then I'm going to give it back to me, and I'm going to have the privilege of introducing the president of the greatest university on the land, in the land. So Anne-Marie Schneider, please.
Thank you, Jim. He earns his paycheck. This is my team of people. CN is the sponsor of the forum today. This is the 5th year that they've sponsored this forum, and they've really provided us a grand opportunity to get together and talk about what's obviously very important to us all, economic development and jobs. So I want to just extend a special thank you to CN, Canadian National Railways. Thank you so much. Many of you have been part of those discussions over the years, so we have the opportunity to really talk at a different level than we did 5 years ago. We matured this conversation to the degree that there's real consensus about what we need to do to be even better partners across borders. So I also wanted to thank Roy Norton, who's in the office, in the room, and has been extremely supportive of the Canadian Studies Center at Michigan State University, and is also on the board. Very helpful in creating some of those partnerships that we need to move our trade and economic development efforts forward. So thank you to CN. Thank you, Governor Blanchard. I got a kick out of it because when Governor Blanchard walked in the door, my student assistant said, "Your name, please? How do you spell that?" I just smiled. And they've been so excited to meet you. So, and thank you for being here. Really appreciate that. Recently, we've had a number of grand efforts going on. We reopened a Toronto trade office. Michigan has opened that trade office. We have a bridge agreement. A few of you might be familiar with it. We've held several border cities conferences in Port Huron and Sault Ste. Marie, and we're on our 2nd annual in Sault Ste. Marie, so a lot of great partnerships. One of my roles, as Jim mentioned, one of my roles at Michigan State University is to lead the Canadian Studies Center. It's a huge job. Just this morning, I was listening to the news, and they were talking about these Airstream trailers moving across the country, and they're all getting together in a city not far from here, Eaton Rapids. And the newscaster said they're coming from all over the country, from Arizona, Canada, Texas. So we still have a little bit of work to do, right? That's what the Canadian Studies Center is working on, is really making people more aware of these issues and the great trade partnership that we have with Canada. So I don't want to say too much more because we have such an exciting agenda. You have it in front of you. We're going to be brief on the bios today because we're anxious to get the conversation going. Basically, it's time to move. It's time to do. And we want to be very focused on strategic action today. Again, there's general consensus on the priorities of how we need to move, what we need to do. So let's do it. All right, so Jim, I'm going to turn it back to you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Anne Marie. I mentioned earlier how much fun it was to be U.S. Ambassador to Canada. Actually, it's our busiest embassy. People would think it might be London or Tokyo. Mexico City is the other busy, really busy embassy because we're involved with every issue with Canada. It's not just trade, the largest trading partner of Great Lakes water quality. It's space station, it's policing the streets of Haiti, it's Afghanistan, it's every kind of agricultural issue. They're our largest provider of energy, including the largest provider of energy to Michigan. It's just, there's nothing, there's really no subject that you can name that we aren't working cooperatively and in partnership with Canada. So it's a great use of all of your talent, and it certainly was a good use of my background in becoming ambassador to Canada and serving our country and our president at that time, President Clinton. Today, and then if you look at the cradle of cooperation between Canada and the U.S., it's really Michigan. You could even be more precise and say it's even more so in the Detroit area, but it's the whole state of Michigan. It's the Great Lakes region. And generally speaking, those in the Great Lakes region are much more aware of the strengths of our partnership and the possibilities of growing that partnership in the future. When we worked with the Great Lakes governors, we always worked with the Premier of Ontario and the Premier of Quebec. In fact, this last summer, Bill Rustin was here from the governor's office, and we're delighted you're here, Bill. By the way, congratulations on working on that new bridge to Windsor. The governor was absolutely right on that, and we're so happy that's worked out. But in late May, early June, there was a Council of Great Lakes Governors meeting. Again, it was up on Mackinac Island. We had the governors from this region, plus the new Premier of Ontario, and representatives of Quebec. And it was also noteworthy that the United States ambassador to Canada was there, and Canada's ambassador to the United States was there. And they talked about regional cooperation, manufacturing, energy, healthcare, water quality, all those issues that are so important to us. And that's another reason why we're here. I see that the CN Forum, again, thank you, CN, and the other sponsors here, synergistic transformation of the Great Lakes region. Well, we're going to figure out what all that means with our speakers. I know this, that we have a fabulous lineup of presenters here. You're going to hear from them momentarily. I can also remind you that MSU has the largest study abroad program of any public university in the United States. And as I mentioned earlier, the Canadian Studies program is the oldest in the United States. We have a president of the university who has devoted her life to educating students to MSU, even though she came from Indiana. I think we're playing them this weekend too, anyway. She has devoted her life to MSU, to East Lansing, to our state, and has worked hard to make sure that our university plays a major role in the economic development, the job development, and the quality of life of the people of our state, of our region, of our country, and the world, because we are a world-class university. And it's my pleasure to introduce to you Dr. Luana Simon to give us a few remarks. Thank you for being with us, too.
Use this. We're okay. We're good. You're like a class. You're all in the back of the room, so I feel right at home. And I want to thank Ambassador Blanchard, Governor Blanchard, whatever the order is for that. I'm not quite sure. It was a while ago when the Blanchards came to Kresge Art Museum to bring us an exhibit of photographs. And during the course of that conversation, we talked about the role that Michigan State needed to play with Canada, sort of mobilizing our resources in different ways to take full advantage of not having the oldest Canadian Studies Center, but have it become the best Canadian Studies Center. Ken Corey, who's in the room, was Dean of Social Science at the time. We engaged agriculture, business, social science, a variety of folks to begin a conversation about how we could best not simply transform communities, but transform the state and the economic position of the United States through thinking differently about partnership with Canada. And putting together that team of people around international studies and programs, the Canadian Studies Center, gave us a lot of energy to begin to think about ways in which we could be the underpinning, the intellectual underpinning, the scholarly underpinning for lots of work that's continuing to happen. Whether it's David Close work around the bridge, behind the scenes in many ways, providing the underpinning, the work on the I-69 corridor as it relates particularly to agricultural products. There are lots of things that just seem to be coming together. And with CNN, we appreciate your support of our transportation program as well, because rail is going to be so important in this picture. So things are just coming together. Things are just coming together. And as I've said on campus, we have to think about this as our time. It's easy to think about what Michigan was and the innovations that occurred and the growth from the automobile industry, and it will still be a very part of who we are and what we're about. But it is our time because of the assets of the people in Michigan, our commitment to transforming communities, and you'll hear a lot about that today, our commitment to think boldly internationally, not just to have a connection point, a bridge, but to think about what that will mean for us in thinking differently about Michigan and its future. And it'll also permit us with the Great Lakes and water to have Michigan at the center of those discussions and activities. So it's our time. It's our time. And it is, as Anne Marie says, an opportunity for us now to move beyond the thinking and the talking, and in some cases the whining about what we don't have or what we used to have, and really imagine this future and just go after it. Simply go after it. And so I'm really pleased with all the support and sponsorship. The program is terrific, and we'll continue to lend our support in varieties of ways to simply going after it and being our time. So thanks very much.